Welcome back to the Rarity Show!
This is the third episode in a row to star Rarity.
I think we've had 3 good Rarity episodes.
And now we see our helper friend Coco Pamel re-establish the Manehattan Community Theater.
Oh, it's the Rarity Show. Yes, it's the Rarity Show. Oh, how can you have a story without the fashion pony we know? On to the Rarity Show. Oh.
'Tis your curse, dear Applejack. Because this was the unofficial end to Rarity Month, where 3 episodes starred the fabulous fashionista, I'm afraid folks put a lot of emphasis on her. However, I and many others think you showed your best in this episode. You were vulnerable but determined, charming and serious, and above all else, innovative. I think this is one of your strongest episodes, though as a map quest episode, I think it highlights some of the issues with this formula. But we'll get to that shortly. For now, let's just enjoy some fine music.
On to the Rarity Show. Oh, yes, the Rarity Show. Come join the pony who looks like a marshmallow.
Haha! I start off strong. We begin with Twilight doing her very best Flufflepuff impersonation. Turns out things have been slow and she's feeling... I approve.
I'm bored.
Ah, the life of a merchandise princess. All the hard work happens off screen, so we either see the end result or the boredom. Speaking as someone for whom the princess life is not marketed, I can't say this paints the role in a new light. Still, I worry for Twilight as she's just a step away from...
I want adventure in the great wide somewhere.
But that will have to wait because it's Rarity and Applejack's turn with the map. Manehattan to be specific. Though, is anyone else wondering about those giant mushrooms that are just a stone's throw away? Well, at least Rarity is excited by this prospect. Not to mention Twilight, who's not going.
It's such an exciting city.
Back in my Lost Treasure of Griffinstone review, I stressed that Twilight is putting her faith in the map. That it knows the grand scheme and the best ponies for the job, even if the ponies themselves do not. Yet there is always the niggling question of why Twilight is forcing herself to stay in the castle and be bored, when there are so many options available. I guess it takes me by surprise because Twilight is rarely shown in a state of inactivity. She always seems to find something to do. Something like...
The Sisterhood Social!
I look forward to talking about that episode, but that comes later. Right now, it's back to Manehattan.
What you do to me?
This is where Applejack's struggle takes place. In contrast to Twilight and Rarity's enthusiasm, AJ is put off by the city's size and speed. Many a fan wondered why she'd feel this way, given her history in the Cutie Mark Chronicles and her visit in Rarity Takes Manehattan. She seemed genuinely excited and at ease back then. Yet I think there's a critical difference here. Applejack is not attending on a vacation this time. She's there for a mission, though the specifics are unknown. Given that AJ is used to direct, explicit jobs, this vagueness would set her on edge right away, and the city size doesn't help. This then leads to the weakness in Season 5's map quest episodes. The whole premise behind these treks being...
The map picked you two because you're the best ponies to tackle this particular mission.
Meaning that by personality or destiny or whatever, the very fact they are chosen signifies that they're the best to resolve this issue. So the smartest course of action is just to do what you'd normally do and trust. But because they know they've been chosen, they don't act normal. They second guess themselves, they look for the rush solution, like hats. They keep trying to guess the map's intentions, whereas in any other case, they'd help those in need. Now, before it sounds like I hate the whole shebang, I am a sucker for reference humor.
Good grief.
But fate and the wind decide to give them a push in the right direction. A flyer to the face says they should go visit Coco Okay. Ow. Yes, this episode is the very last we'll hear of the name Coco Pamel. Her name has been changed to Miss Pamel because of vaguely defined legal reasons. The assumption is that this has something to do with the legacy of Gabrielle Bonheur Coco Chanel, one of the greatest fashion designers in history. She's a big reason why casual chic became a standard for women over corsets. Before I make her sound too much like the bee's knees, Chanel was also intensely anti-Semitic, homophobic, and suspected of being a Nazi informant. Yeah, not really seeing the resemblance to a pony as adorable as this, or, well, we all have our bad days. Ultimately, I have no solid knowledge of what forced this change, but I will always call her Coco Pamel, and no amount of legalism can make me... Sacre bleu! The French are retaliated against my terrible pronunciation. I always knew this day would come. Curse you, France! Curse you and your beautiful language!
Quite a coincidence, don't you think? It's no coincidence, darling.
We're on a mission from God.
So Coco needs help restoring the Midsummer Theater revival. Put simply, community is based on shared events. This theater performance was a means towards fostering that sense. Sadly, everyone in the district is just too busy running their own businesses or afraid to invest the hours. And I've talked about the notion that time is a currency. These days, with everything demanding our attention, it seems harder to make that investment. The big thing that conveys this idea is that we see most of the ponies working at their day jobs, clearly investing time and energy, so it's more sympathetic. The one exception is a business owner who is not put upon by his work. I guess it's a mixed bag of reactions, most of them justified, to reflect the situation. Still, it's too bad that Applejack and Rarity can't count on friends and connections. I guess ponies like Babs and the Oranges live in other parts of... I've got nothing. Coco is stressing out, which is both her attraction and weakness. Fans fell in love with this character because she was originally being bullied by an ungrateful employer. That vulnerability endeared her. Now she's being vulnerable about a task she chose to take on. I think that actually hurts her presentation. Really needed her to take the lead role and show some competency.
We went out looking for volunteers when all the help you need is right here.
So Applejack tries to update the park theater alone, while Rarity and Coco handle costumes. This leads to her nearly being crushed, exhausted, and... What? Why is everyone freaking out? Oh, you're all worried about the hat. Yes, Applejack Stetson gets worked over in this episode. Yet this is a unique case of fan theory adding more weight than the show might intend. Many fans ran with the idea that Applejack's hat is a memento from her deceased parents. But there's some obstacles to this idea. The first being Applejack's hot minute from YouTube.
I wanted bobbing for apples at the Ponyville Fair.
Which, honestly, I have no trouble accepting that as non-canon. And second is a joke in Some Pony to Watch Over Me that shows that Applejack is clearly not lacking for headwear. Don't get me wrong, I am a sucker for a heartbreaker, and I love this idea. But sometimes a hat really is just a hat. Anyway, local theater group, the Method Mayors, arrive early.
Is this where the Midsummer Theater revival is supposed to be, par chance?
Him. I'm sorry. Something about the way he said perchance made me really want to punch him. Still, I'm sure the rest of you will be less pretentious.
At least those look professional.
Okay, I sense a violent trend growing here. I'm gonna put some distance between me and you, but to make sure you're on your best behavior, I've invited Liana Mormont Pony to keep an eye on you.
The North remembers.
I'll just leave you all to get acquainted and then go about my own. No, do not run. She can smell fear. Okay, toodles. I suppose I should be more forgiving since their attitude is a reflection of the lack of community spirit. Thing is, this is the only way we get to see them. They're not big players in this tale, and, much like the griffin that abandoned Rainbow Dash, we've yet to see if they've learned anything from the encounter. Yet maybe that's for the best, as their rotten attitudes shield the audience from feeling bad when one of them is nearly crushed. I mean, objectively it'd be awful, but the funny thing about fiction is that you care more about characters you like. Things look bleak, but Applejack finally has a revelation.
I'm suggesting we stop worrying about what we can't do and start doing what we can.
So they build a makeshift stage and go ahead with what they have. And, son of a gun, it actually starts to draw a crowd in the middle of the street. Okay, I'm sure some folks are expecting me to have a taxi or some such come barreling through in some kind of dark humor punchline. But there are kids and elderly ladies in that audience. I do have my limit, folks. That's why I've done my best to help out as well. And to quote a bit of bumper sticker wisdom, keep honking, I'm reloading. I will say that the Method Mayors leave something to be desired in the acting department.
Have you considered costume design? I have a contact on Bridal Way.
But they do bring up an unexpected theme in this episode, networking. Not just Charity Kindheart's history that led her to this community, but also Coco's employment.
She's the one who got a job making costumes for that designer friend of yours.
When people say networking, it conjures up images of business cards, Rolodexes, contact lists, long conversations with strangers, and any number of other factors that, to an introverted personality, sound absolutely boring or terrifying. But I like the way networking is presented in this episode. Nothing overly complex, just some folks doing kind things for one another or helping out a friend. However, Equestria operates on an accelerated timeline. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than a single meeting to establish a connection. With that in mind, I'd like to point folks towards two videos from my favorite gaming channel, Neebs Gaming. Their videos, Why Do I Keep Failing, and their origin story vlog can offer some guidance and encouragement for folks who are either starting their careers or are in transition. Back to the ponies, it seems that this humble setup is winning the locals over. Ponies are sitting, paying attention, and getting back in the spirit. This is probably the best example of what these map quests are all about, fixing a smaller problem to enhance the larger community. I know the overall message of this episode is about community involvement and how even small contributions can have a big impact. But in this case, actions do carry more meaning than words. Seeing Applejack's efforts has a bigger impact than hearing her lecture.
I imagine if you look around, you'll find there's lots of little ways for you to get involved in changing this place for the better.
But all in all, I think this is a very positive episode. However, it's likely the weakest of the 3 map quests this season. The problem is that there's a lot of empty time between the lead character's arrival in Manehattan until their plan's execution. This steals a lot of energy, and since we've seen Manehattan before, there's less fascination about the new locale. AJ, Rarity, you remain my favorite odd couple in the show, and I always enjoy seeing you interact. This was by no means a bad episode, it just didn't make a huge impact. It also capped off Rarity's run across several episodes, but I'd argue the real focus is Applejack. It's she who feels out of place and takes on the greater burden. She whom we witness struggle. Yet AJ seems to get no love as people were focused upon her destroyed hat, which was easily replaced. Although that did teach me the importance of decent headwear. What do you think, ladies? Booyah! 2 for 1! That means there's a single challenge left. I'm coming for you, Fluttershy! I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching.